And we'll start with Tori, if you want to sort of like get into what your hopes are for the future of YA.
More. Just just more. I mean, I don't have much to say. More culture, more diversity, more queer representation. Just I just want more. I hope that, the generation, my daughter's generation, I really hope that they come into themselves, and I hope that the books they want to read grow with them. And I hope that they are not limited in the way that I was, or, the way that, um, some kids are now, in what is available to them in as far as like subject matter or author representation. I hope that I don't know. I just hope it grows, and I hope that it grows for the better.
I love that. And Paige, what about you?
I think I agree. I agree with Tori. I hope that so it makes reading. I don't want to say reading's not cool, but it wasn't something that we talked about like doing in our spare time when I was a teenager. So I hope that the rise of YA and even contemporary YA, not just SFF, means that reading is a big part of people's lives again, and that people can discover a love of reading if that's what they have. I mean, it's a whole other conversation to have, but obviously the texts that you're given at school don't necessarily inspire a love of literature and a love of doesn't really cultivate maybe kind of a love of reading. Um, and yeah, just reading stories that you wouldn't otherwise have come across. Obviously, we're talking as a fan of white people from quite affluent countries and stuff. So being able to hear stories that are maybe even different to what the media is telling us is just so important, and to have these voices represented that you kind of would never have otherwise potentially come across. I just hope it continues to grow and it reaches a broader audience that don't just see YA as being, for young girls or just romance or anything. I hope it just becomes more kind of what Tori was saying, basically.
And Justin, what about you?
I have a very probably the best way I could put it, a very cynical outlook on most things. I don't know about the rest of the world, but as far as the United States goes, our education system is very flawed. Teachers are underpaid and overworked. Um, there are kids that are dealing with a lot of um, very hard things in life, and um, teachers either don't care or don't have the time to help them, or a lot of teachers are 60, 70 years old and still have the mindset that mental health or sexual assault and things like that are things to be shameful of, and things to be quiet about, or um, sexual identities and things like that. I I want YA to be a beacon for the kids who don't have anywhere to turn to be, or to feel seen, or to feel heard. And I know that's a lot to put on authors, but ultimately it is a genre marketed towards children, and I think that people do have a responsibility to write things and put out books with that in mind. And I just hope that everyone who feels lost, or not seen or heard, can find that, whether it's in YA or adult fiction.
I think that's a very, very beautiful note to close out on. Um, I mean, we all have big hopes for YA, and I think Justin and I, we, even though we came to YA later in life, realized the beauty and potential of YA in science fiction and fantasy. And I hope that there's a broader acceptance, from younger readers and adults to branch out a little bit from their comfort zones enough to explore voices that aren't necessarily their own, and to try to get a different perspective on the world, such that you can put yourself in the shoes of somebody from a non-affluent country, or a country where the native language is completely different, or the history and culture is completely different, just as a way of teaching ourselves that the world is bigger than us, And I think YA is a really good point in anybody's life. That age range is the point where it's really it's full of the most potential for us to start opening our minds and experiencing new things and exploring the world. And so, yeah, like Justin said, it's a lot to put on authors, but I think authors also have an immense amount of breadth for which to express themselves and their experiences and the things that they think are worth telling or worth experiencing and reading. And then hopefully in turn, it's just generates a new generation of readers who decide, I read this book when I was a teenager, and now I want to become a writer, and become this beautiful feedback loop like Tori that pushes forward into the future with even more openness and determination to put out good content into the world. And also, just side note, going back to genre classifications, I really hope this is not just for YA, this is for like SFF and fiction in general. Just put some fucking descriptions on the back of what is inside this book.
Yes.
Just
just some bullet points. We're just asking for bullet points.
Something just to make it easier for people to make purchasing decisions, so that some highly religious grandma doesn't buy her son a book with BDSM in it. I think that's pretty fair to ask of the publishing industry, but that's the way it is for now. But hopefully we can change things bit by bit. Does anyone have some closing thoughts that they want to throw out there?
I feel like as we've gone through the podcast, we've made YA sound like it can be a very heavy genre, which is kind of the opposite to how we started out. So I just want to say, like, YA can be so fun, and the stories can be entirely ridiculous and just so like out there.
Yeah.
But I think we're just saying it's important that representation is there, and that these issues are talked about, and it's kind of the prime age to start talking about some of these things that can be really kind of that can just affect so many people. But also, yeah, YA is so fun. It's such a wonderful genre to read in.
It is so much fun, and there's so many good things about it, and I could talk for another hour about all the good things, but
we'll have to do a follow-up.
YA.
We'll have to do a follow-up podcast at some point. Once we get through all the other plethora of things that we want to talk about.
YA part 2.
Part 2. Justin, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, just I want people to read more, read outside their comfort zone, experience other things. There are so many points of view, so many experiences that I'll never experience. So many things that people people of color or queer people experience, and different cultures that I'll never come face to face with, that I can get a glimpse of through reading. And I just want people to read more, read more.
Yeah, I will say that reading is one of the most powerful empathizers that exists in the world. So
yes,
hopefully it acts as like a portal through which people can connect with something that they're not familiar with.
Words have power, man.
Exactly.